My goal here is to kind of work on a digital workflow that'll work better for me and hopefully share it with everyone on Portranet as well to make working with digital images faster and smoother. And I just find that I'm taking too much time with them, so I would really like to automate these processes. We could do this by creating an action in Photoshop, which I find rather cumbersome, or we can use a program like Breeze Browser, which I use quite a bit for raw to TIFF conversion, which I'm really pleased with. What I did here was using the cropping guides that Rob installed in my camera. I shot a 4x5 proof to see where the crop actually will fall, and I could see that because of the extra space around here, even though I was top and bottom on the cropping guides, I still have some extra slack here on the side, so I went inside and I moved the cropping guides out just a little bit further from center and reshot some tests. Do excuse my blue coloring here. I didn't bother with white balance, and I went upstairs and snuck a couple of shots at Joy, which she won't appreciate, on the telephone here to try and get an idea of a crop. And then I shot the 4x5 proportioned proof again, and you can see it's a much nicer fit now. So I have my guides in the viewfinder in a more accurate position here. As far as a real portrait that we're taking in the studio, the actual image, the subjects will actually run outside here, so you won't have this little edge and you won't have this on top or bottom. You'll actually have your subject extending more or more background above, so all of this really isn't going to matter. What matters is what we pull out here when we do a crop. And to manually crop, it's just taken so much time on my part that I just don't find it practical to use digital at all because of that. So I want to automate some of these things. So first of all, what I want to do is, if we turn the camera and shoot some horizontal and some vertical, Breeze Browser will let you select them by clicking on the images, and by holding down Control you can click more than one. You can click these two, add one, unclick, or just click one at a time. If we want to rotate some, we can hold Control and click more than one, and then by hitting the left arrow we can actually rotate those so that we have them all in the proper orientation. Now what we want to do at this point is collect all three of these by clicking them, and we want to go into proof mode. So we're going to go up to Tools, Proofs, and at this point you could click Resize and set pixels and actually set the pixel dimensions you want for the image for a 4x5 by 300 ppi image. This would make the images smaller so that you can fit more on a CD-ROM if you're burning a disk to send to the lab, or it would make your uploading quicker if you're going to FTP them into the lab. So optionally you could have this program resize them down to 4x5 by 300 ppi, which is really a nice feature in itself. In this case I'm going to turn that off so we don't resize, and I am going to make sure that we turn on crop, and I'm going to set the ratio, the perspective here, the aspect I should say, to 10 inches wide by 8 inches high, which would be a 4x5 proof, or an 8x10 crop, which are the same aspect. You can optionally add a border if you want, but we don't want that. You can also get into noise reduction. You can do saturation if you want to turn these up in saturation, or turn them all into black and white. A lot of times I'll shoot my senior session for black and white sessions in color with the digital, and in this case I can quickly turn them all into black and whites by putting a 0 here for saturation. You can even adjust your gamma if you want, your brightness, and your auto levels for your black and white point, which I'm not going to get into right now. You can also tell it when it downsamples for a resize. You can tell it to sharpen the image, which will restore some of the sharpness, and you can tell it to use unsharp mask and set your radius amounts just like you would in Photoshop. Another neat feature here is we can add a watermark, which will be applied over the top of the proofs, and going into settings we can put in our copyright or our credit here. We can set our font, and we can say it's going to be, in my case, Right Justified. I want a white font color. I'm going to make it slightly transparent so it's not so outstanding, and a background color I'm going to use black, but I'm going to make it 100% transparent so that we don't see a background. I want its placement to be bottom right, and the offset 10 pixels from the right and 10 pixels from the bottom. So those are our options there. Once we do this, we can tell it to proof them into JPEGs or proof them into TIFFs. I'm going to do, let's do 8-bit TIFFs. If it's a JPEG, you can set the quality here. That's the amount of compression. You can set it from 80, 85, 90% to make smaller files. And then of course you set the directory where you want them to go. And I'm going to put them into the directory that the camera created, plus a little subdirectory called proofs. And since I have all three selected, I'm going to say proof selected. And I've already done this, so I'm going to say overwrite all. And it will now work on the three images. And this is what we ended up with. We've got the ones of joy and the crop here of the proof. And it added my House of Photography 2004 down here. And you'll see that it cropped really quite close to the edges of the proof, which was my goal. And the little edge you see up here we won't see in a regular session because we won't have carpeting behind the subjects. We'll just get a little more background and a little more background over here. And if we had any show at the bottom, we would just have a little more of the subject show there. So it's really reasonably cropped right there. And using these crop guides that I have in the D60's viewfinder now, I should be able to shoot everything using those crop guides and tell Breeze Browser to automatically crop in this way, and it should be able to go through a whole directory of images, either resizing them and cropping them or just cropping them, which I find is going to be really nice as far as automating this process. This will be step one, and what I'm going to do from here is work on the automation process of some of the other things that I need to do when I'm handling images digitally. So this will be the end of this particular portion. If you haven't downloaded Breeze Browser, I really recommend it. You can get it at breezesys.com.